Hey everyone. All right, so I did a list talking about my favorite movies from my all-time favorite director, Steven Spielberg. And I feel like I should go ahead and try to give more credit to other directors. Plus, I should give credit to other actors too. I did a list also of my favorite performances from my favorite actor of all time, Tom Hanks. I feel like I need to be doing that with more actors because while Spielberg and Hanks are still two of my all-time favorites, they're not the only actors I watch a lot of. So I really do need to give more credit to more people. So I figured I'd go ahead and find more directors I've seen lots of movies from and try to rank some of their films. So let's talk about another director that I've mentioned as one of my personal favorites, Tim Burton. Yes, indeed. I've talked about how much I love his art style, how it makes me excited to see his films, how it's always a fun pleasure to watch the sort of weird worlds he creates and such. So I decided that I should go ahead and maybe give more directors credit. So I'm going to do him next. Today I'm going to be talking about my personal favorite movies from the director himself. And this isn't going to be based off of which movies are the best in terms of art style that he has or like what he does. No, this is just going to be more so regular list of favorites. It's just like my personal favorite films in general that he directed. So yeah, a lot of his best known ideas is making stuff that's gothic or wacky. So that's pretty much what all these movies are. It's just ranked off of how I like the films in general. It's not really meant necessarily based off how wacky or how gothic each film gets, just how fun they are. How much I actually like the movie and how I can consider it a reason to find Burton as one of my favorites. All right, let's get started.
We have a classic novel, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory from Roald Dahl, which was already adapted into a movie in the 70s that I nostalgically grew up with. That movie was lots of fun, in my opinion. I had fun watching it as a child. I watched it so many times. I grew up with it. I still love it to this day. I'll be honest, I hated the remake when I first saw it. When I first saw this new Tim Burton esque version of the story, I just couldn't get into it. I thought that it was a lot creepier, scarier. I was actually more scared of this than I was of the original. Like, the original was creepy in a way, we had Gene Wilder's creepy performance, a world of kids getting killed, and yes, that infamous tunnel scene. I actually was not scared of any of that as a kid. I actually took it as a nice wholesome film. That was weird, but yeah, this movie had a darker look to it. Some of the like kids getting tortured seemed to be a lot more over the top. Overall, just couldn't get enjoy this movie. Looking back now, I definitely really like it more. That is, though, I still think it's just all right. Honestly, I don't think this movie really is anything that great. I mean, it works fine in its manner. Let's talk about why I do like this movie. The visuals are great. Yes, I love how they make the whole normal world look as grady and snowy, little depressing as possible to sort of match the theme what we're meant for. And then we have the chocolate factory, which is more visually colorful and all forth. And I like seeing that. It's fun to see that comparison. I do like sort of some of these new kids. I mean, they're not all superior to the originals, but some I do like. I do like the new Charlie we have here. He seems to make for a nice kid, and some of the other kids are fun. Like their deaths are definitely more deserving when we see what they're like. They kind of show that off. And I like how they have the Oompa Loompas be singing these different genres of music during each child's death. Though that's fun to watch. But let's talk about why I don't think this movie is anything that great. While it's fun, I'll admit Johnny Depp's Wonka just wasn't it for me. He's having fun with the role, and I like that. But he just comes off a lot creepier than originally. I know Gene Wilder was creepy, but he was creepy in a different way. He was creepy to where he had that calm voice where it was just like, "Hello, Charlie." He was like the kind of he still you could definitely trust him with how much he seems like he's really in mood with the kids or whatever. I mean, I guess again, I probably just was a weird kid, but I don't know. He seemed to have a nice, wholesome manner with his voice. Depp, however, he's all like, "Hi, kids." It comes off too weird and silly. I just honestly was not a fan of how he talked, how he acted. I especially wasn't a fan of how he had a bigger part in this film as him having his own backstory on what he was like as a child, how he had a dentist father who was also Count Dooku and Sauron or whatever. Apparently, that backstory of his makes him a big character in this film too. And I don't know, I wasn't really into that. I feel like Wonka doesn't need this much character in a film that's literally called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Still, with those flaws, I still think this movie is really fun. It's not great, but I liked it. No, I still think it's worthwhile, and I do appreciate that it's more faithful to the original book, which I know is one big factor to why many look at this as the better film adaptation, but nah, I don't see it. Alright, so here's a movie that's honestly not as Tim Burton as it could be. Big Eyes is a story about, well, what is it? A story about a woman who has big eyes. Well, as a matter of fact, this movie is not entirely that. This movie's focus is on a painter who paints a picture of woman with big eyes. Like the big eyes are in a painting, and this story kind of focuses on a drama of how her painting is sold by different someone else, and she hates what's going on. She's trying to save her reputation or whatever. It's supposed to be like a true story, I guess. It wasn't much more about it I could really get into in a way. I mean, the story works nice, and these characters are enjoyable, and I do like that. I guess my biggest gripe is how less Tim Burton there is in this movie. The wacky art style is really only seen briefly in this story, and I think most of it just comes from what the picture itself looks like. It's a painting. That's what Tim Burton made for this movie. So, as a Tim Burton movie, I gotta say I was really disappointed. However, this list I said was based off of what I think of these movies in general. And being a true story that's told very nicely in this movie, I can appreciate it. I don't remember it 100%. I mean, the fact that I'm explaining less about what the story is kind of shows you so what. But from what I do remember, there is some good drama with this. These characters have um some nice dialogue. You know, the acting's good, and I do kind of like the kind of structure the movie goes with. Even if it's not as wacky or gothic as you would want a Burton movie to be, it is meant to just be a biopic with a bit of that colorful light that Burton likes to make. So I can appreciate him for going in that manner. That's definitely a fun thing for him to do. Try to make something look as weird and silly, but also be very dramatic. And if Burton's able to make a movie like this turn out as a pass for me, I can accept him for doing that. Ah, yes, here we have a legacy sequel Burton made, his most recent film, and one that I both was excited for, but also very disappointed to see. Honestly, I'm glad that I could finally get the chance to see a Tim Burton movie in theaters after I haven't seen him really make a movie in so long, or at least I haven't seen a movie that he directed in so long. I was just ready to see his art style come back on the big screen. The only problem is, at the same time, it's a legacy sequel, and while we all like to agree that making remakes is not something that we keep doing that can cause Hollywood to run out of ideas, it's also making legacy sequels that's kind of causing a problem. I'll be honest, I think the legacy sequels nowadays are just as ridiculously overstimulating as remakes, and this kind of falls into that category. At the same time, though, I can't say I didn't like it. In fact, I have to say I really liked it. I really liked this movie a lot, actually. Now, granted, that's not me saying please keep doing more of these, especially you, Burn. But the movie itself was lots of fun. All the weird images, the colors, some of the nice stop motion elements that are I'm glad to see return to cinematic form. I'm glad to see all that. I do like how it is sort of a new story. I mean, they could have very easily have just done the whole I'm I heard that there were these other guys who went through a situation similar to this. No, this actually does sort of continue on with new ideas. Like Beetlejuice now has a annoying wife that he's trying to get rid of. Winona Ryder's character is now a mother. Of course she is, but her mother, Catherine O'Hara, rest in peace, by the way, returns in this movie, and yeah, she still plays a big part in the world. And apparently, we get some sort of explanation to why the characters who don't return in this movie aren't here. For example, Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis were the main characters of the first movie, but they're not even here at all. And apparently, they explained that even though they were already dead, now their ghosts are dead. That was a little weird explanation, but and they also explained why Jeffrey Jones' character was absent. I guess he just didn't want to act in this movie again. Apparently, they just show his character being killed off in a stop motion form. It was lots of fun to watch. I'll be honest, it was weird, but that's what Burton does. Low key, while legacy sequels are getting annoying, this one I can't say I didn't like. I think that it was fun. I did enjoy a lot of the new ideas. I did enjoy some of the recurring elements. So even though I feel like I kind of want to see Burton go back to directing a new film, or at least maybe maybe take one of his older short films and adapt it. That would be cool to see. Either way, I feel like doing that would work better than just bringing back these older movies of his. I mean, it's fun. This one was fun to see, but when I'm expecting a new movie for Burton to make, I do mean a new movie. Now, here we have the first ever full length animated feature Burton would direct. And I know what you're thinking. Please tell me you're joking. No, he did not direct The Nightmare Before Christmas. That is all that has been a miscurrent feature, I feel like. I mean, his name is plastered all over the movie. He didn't direct it. No, this movie was directed by Tim Burton. That movie was directed by Henry Selick. Okay, Henry Selick did not get a lot of credit for directing Nightmare Before Christmas. I guess Burton was supposed to direct it, but failed to finally get to. So they had him direct it, and then just had Burton's name be all over the film, even to the point where some call it Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. But anyway, let's talk about the actual first directed animated feature he did. Corpse Bride. This is a animated love story about a man who falls in love with a dead body. It's weird when you think about it, but in the actual movie sense, we do get some fun elements. We focus on a man who is meant to be forced to marry this woman, so he practices his wedding vows in a cemetery because where else would you practice them? And apparently, one grave he does it at comes alive. It's the skeleton that comes out, takes it seriously, and it's like, "Oh, I'm now your wife," and he's like, well, "Holy shit, what?" And now he's taken to her weird world where we see that apparently being dead puts you in this exciting, fun environment. Okay, why is Burton doing that with his movies? He's creating these weird worlds for when you die. Do you want us to die? Do you want to die? Okay, that got dark. Let's just move on. Yeah, apparently she lives in this weird, silly looking environment full of fun skeletons and other interesting things, and Depp is taken to it. And as the story progresses, we sort of fall into that old romance trope where she eventually finds out what was going on and how he really wasn't in love with her. And we, of course, get that whole, "You're a liar, I don't love you." And he's like, "Well, I never loved you." And then as the film moves on, they eventually do fall in love, sort of, and that's where our movie takes its course. I liked it mostly for how fun the animation is and how beautifully enjoyable the characters were in the story and such. At the same time, though, I could have liked it more. I personally think that the romance itself was a little rushed at times. I didn't really get as much into it as I could have. I mean, it was beautiful at times, but overall, I just kind of, and I just didn't move me as well. I also think the use of song numbers in this movie was a little unnecessary. Yeah, this apparently is marketed as a musical. There's only a few songs, and they all are way too Nightmare Before Christmas esque. I feel like they only were there to remind us that Burton was a big deal in Nightmare Before Christmas. But if anything, you should be trying your hardest to separate yourself from that movie. Okay, you didn't direct it as much as you wanted to, so try to put more of your effort into this film. I'm just saying. I don't know. I still really liked it. It was beautiful, nice, great animation, a great run to the story. Still, a lot of its other elements just weren't enough to make me love this movie more. Now, Edward Scissorhands. This is usually considered to be one of Burton's best films, and I definitely can see why. It's another beautiful romance story. This time it's about a man who isn't human. He's instead built with scissors for hands. We learn that he lives in this creepy old dark mansion that no one's been to, and eventually when this bright colorful suburban neighborhood opens, one lady finds the place, finds him, takes him into the neighborhood. Everybody sees his scissor hands, loves them, uses them for fun ways. He uses them in fun ways. And from there, he also meets a beautiful chick they fall in love with. Simple, fun story, right? I really do like the story we get with here. This character that Johnny Depp portrays in this movie, man, he is impossible to dislike. He really put an effort into making a character that nobody can get annoyed with. I mean, he really provides some of the best, most beautiful bits of moments in his character. He barely speaks, but you really do feel what he's feeling when you look at him. I mean, he sets his emotions nicely. Now, my gripe with this movie, why I kind of wish I would have liked it more, kind of has to do with some of the other characters. The idea of his hands being exploited and him eventually being seen as a weapon target is understandable. I was understandable in seeing that. What I wasn't a big fan of was how they kind of put a lot of too much focus on these characters. I mean, I know we're supposed to get an idea of who's meeting him, but we're supposed to focus on him. There are moments during the film where he gets a backstory of how he was created and why he's lives there alone, but it's not enough, I feel like. This is kind of like my problem with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, except in reverse. In that movie, I wanted less backstory. In this movie, I wanted more. That's just what I'm saying. I also think the ending was kind of underwhelming. I feel like apparently this chick that he falls in love with has this boyfriend already, and they really take a shit with him. At first, he's just a regular blonde douche, but then he's like, "I'm gonna use your boyfriend to break into a house and then frame him for trespassing so he can get arrested. And if I ever catch you with him again, I will literally shoot him with a gun." He just turns into a straight up villain. That was a pretty big shift in this character. I found that to be fun, I guess. Overall, I really did like this movie. The ending, like I said, apparently after her boyfriend gets killed from his own accident, Edward has to hide from the public now, so he isn't seen for this. So he pretty much just has to hide back in that place, be pronounced dead himself. And Winona reveals that when she tells the story to her child, that she never visited him again because, according to her, she didn't want him to see her looking so old. That's kind of a dumb explanation, but still, I guess it's not too abysmal. This was still a really beautiful movie. You should definitely check it out. It's heartwarming, nice, fun. It can be pretty rough at times, but it's still a really enjoyable movie. Here we have another drama Burton made. This one is a very wholesome adventure. This is a story of a man who's lived a very normal, regular life, but apparently he enjoys exploiting it in such an exciting way. So when he's in his hospital bed, he explains the story to his son in very silly ways. Apparently, he explains his life by revealing about how his life featured all sorts of weird things, like I don't know, befriending a giant, joining a circus, falling in love with someone in a happy flower garden or whatever. He kind of just explains his story in an exciting way, in a way that only Burton could film. That is amazing. I at first was a little skeptical with this movie because I feel like it was just trying to be like Forrest Gump but with more Burton filmography. But as I look more into it, I got more and more intrigued with how the movie was being told. It was fun. I really think that the idea of a man explaining his life through silly Burton ways is really fun to see, and I'm glad we got to see a lot of him in this movie. We do at a few points cut back to his son, who can be a dick at times, but we're able to get back to his story, which is made to be as fun as possible. It's his imagination, so he, doesn't try to add as much mean spirited elements to it as he could. He makes it as beautiful and fairy tale esque as possible. And it also doesn't come off as too childish because we know we cut back to him. I feel like that's kind of why we cut back to his son at that. We have to be reminded that this is a serious film. It's not meant to be something comedic or fairy tale Disney esque. It's supposed to be a true story. Well, not actually a true story, but it's supposed to be a serious story about someone who really likes to think of life in an exciting way. He doesn't want to live his last few minutes reminding himself how terrible he had it. So it's nice to see him kind of go through life in a new way, and I think that's really what makes this movie great for me. Nothing more because yeah, like I said, other characters aren't as enjoyable, and I guess it does get a little too silly and childish at times. But I guess that is what it was made for. I think it's worth a watch. You definitely will get the sense that Tim Burton made it, even if it's not as gothic as it could be. All right, speaking of gothic, here we have the knight himself, Batman Returns. Batman is, I mean, what else can I say? It's freaking Batman. I have always been a massive fan of this superhero, and I still mostly am. So naturally, I had to have seen all of his films. Here we have his second feature, the sequel, where he now returns to the city to fight a new threat. For Christmas time, he has to deal with a Catwoman and a Penguin. Yes, it's two villains now, two very over the top, awesome villains. We got Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman, who is as sadistic as ever. I mean, she seduces Batman at times, then she, of course, acts psychopathic. It's a good match. It's definitely Michelle Pfeiffer's best performance. But of course, we also have Danny DeVito's Penguin. Man, this guy, this Penguin, man, I enjoy every scene he's in. And of course, how does Batman himself play out? Well, these new villains do steal the show, but his character himself still has its moments too. I think just like the first movie, they really try to put as much focus into these villains as possible, explaining their backstory, explaining why they're being bad, and they do for the most part. It's a little silly to think about at times, but this movie really did what it was set out to do. It has awesome action scenes, the colors are cool, the just the whole setting is cool. I mean, this movie is just action packed and awesome from beginning to end. I really didn't know if I could enjoy this movie at first when I thought about what they could do for a sequel that has all this. But I saw it and I was incredibly surprised by how exciting and awesome it was. It's still nothing spectacular in general because, yeah, it does get a little rushed and kind of lacking at times. Some things could have been explained better, and some of Batman's moments could have been, I don't know, I just feel like I could have gotten more of Batman's interactions with all this. I feel like he interacts more with Catwoman in this movie than he does with the Penguin. That part I was a little disappointed with. But still, the movie is fun. If you're a Batman fan, you have to love this movie. So, Sleepy Hollow. It would be interesting if I told you that this actually might be my all time favorite Johnny Depp performance. I know, weird, right? He's not even meant to be the headless horseman himself. This is a story where he is pretty much trying to save himself from the headless horseman. It is a all all around creepy story. This is probably like the first time Burton made something that's just straight up horrific. And yeah, he really shows it here. This headless horseman is creepy as all can be. The tension is rough. Man, I definitely got chills at times. The settings are pretty brutal. Some of the violence in this movie too, man, it's pretty intense. But I think why this is my favorite performance of Johnny Depp is that he really shines when it comes to his reactions to all this that goes on. He is just a normal man in this world who pretty much knows that what's going on is straight up damn. And I think it really shines here. I mean, a lot of people point to Jack Sparrow, but this is his defining role, in my opinion. Honestly, yeah, he just really delivers such a serious and really realistic performance in a way. The movie itself is just all around creepy. I was amazed by how scary this movie could be. I know Burton is great at making gothic movies, but he showed here that he can really put out something that can just be straight up horror. So, good job on his part. He made violence, terrifying colors, dark settings. He made all of that work in such a scary way possible. So, yeah, this movie proved that he can also work as a horror master along with his other works. He may be one to make movies with a kitty, with something for the kiddies, but this ain't for the kiddies. Now, this is sort of for the kiddies. I know Beetlejuice is pretty obvious choice to be in the second spot, but I mean, it's pretty hard for me to um say more stuff about this movie that hasn't already been said. This is a amazing idea. This family, this couple who lives in this house that they don't ever want to get rid of, but then they end up dying and they become ghosts. Yet they apparently aren't able to scare any the people who move into their house away. So they realize they have to call in Beetlejuice, who is this insane, ridiculous dude, all around silly, crazy, all over the place. They try to hire him to scare them off, but then he ends up becoming a danger to them. And then they also have to protect their daughter, who moves into the house, as she knows that, as she's the only one who can see the ghost. So now they have this situation between getting rid of the rough homeowners and stopping Beetlejuice. And in this movie, it goes as Tim Burton as ever. Pretty much everything you would see a Tim Burton movie have is here. You got creepy characters, you got a dark environment, a wacky environment, stop motion creatures. All of that is here. You can pretty much just make this the mascot of Tim Burton's character himself. He pretty much just puts his all his effort into this one movie. It is lots of fun. It's funny a lot. It's cool. It's a story that I really think is probably one of the most unique stories I've seen in any comedy out there. I think this definitely deserves to be watched. You definitely have to have already seen this movie because honestly, anybody who hasn't seen this movie is really missing out on something clever. It's damn clever, if I have to say. So, by honorable mentions, these are actually just the movies that I haven't seen of his. Yeah, so I haven't seen any of these. These are the only Burton movies I haven't seen yet. And that's why they are on this list, because I haven't seen them yet. Granted, I'm only interested in finding the first two at some point. I don't really know if I'm ever going to get a chance to watch the other three, if in my own wants. I don't know. Those last three just don't look as appealing. Those two, the first two are the only ones out of this variety I'm waiting to watch. So eventually I should get to the point of watching them. I probably could have waited until I saw them before I made this list, but I just wanted to point out now. I will watch them at some point. And besides, even if I have already seen them, ain't no way to be better than this. Oh, yes, indeed. Batman, the original film, is my favorite of his. I went from really loving this movie to absolutely adoring this film. It is now up there as one of my favorite superhero movies ever. I don't know why I reached that far now, but it does. This movie is just all around exciting. You got action, you got dark colors, you got all that stuff here. We got the story of the Joker that Batman has to take down. We get to see the Joker have more attention in this story than Batman himself, which usually I would criticize. But here it works because Batman still shows himself as the main character. Even if his backstory is never presented in this movie that well, you still know who he is. And he does show off his true terror in him. I think this movie really surprised me with how awesome Michael Keaton's Batman is, how amazing Jack Nicholson's Joker was, how awesome the visuals are, how amazing this looks for the 80s. Man, I can just rewatch this movie right now. I pretty much can just after this list, I'm just gonna go back and watch the movie. It is that fun. It's the probably the definitive comic book movie of the 20th century. I mean, nowadays there's all sorts of superhero movies you love to praise, but for the last century, out of every superhero movie we've gotten, this is the definitive one. No contest, I think. Even if there's a lot of great ones now, this one really define something. I think that this movie should be watched more and more because man, I couldn't get enough of it. I gotta watch it again. It's just that amusing. I am a nerd for superhero films, so yeah, you know how much I love to watch them. So I might watch this again if I want to.